Okay, here we're going to talk about how to add resistors in parallel. Okay, we have a slightly different equation for this, which says that 1 over R total, or 1 over RAQ, is equal to 1 over R1 plus 1 over R2. So we can imagine that maybe we have two different resistors here, and each of them are 10 ohms. So the question is what would their equivalent resistance be, or what would their resistance be if we were to wire them in parallel, which could be shown like this if we really wanted to. So this would be an example of how to show that they're in parallel. These would be nice because they will have a common denominator. Obviously, if we were going to add them in series, it would just be 10 plus 10. In parallel, it ends up being a little bit different. So we have 1 over R total is equal to 1 over 10 ohms, and this other one would be 1 over 10 ohms as well. I don't have to worry too much about which one is which, whether this one is 1 and this one is 2, because they're both the same. But in any event, I want to be careful not to add across the denominators because that would be wrong. That would be bad math. So I can add them as I normally would, and this becomes 2 over 10 ohms. Now I'm just going to carry this down so we can see what's happening here, because common mistake here is to just then say, well, R total is then 2 divided by 10. But a couple of things come into play here, one of which is that ohms is in the denominator, and that wouldn't make sense for finding a resistance because the unit needs to be in the numerator in this case, and our total is in the denominator. So continuing with that, this becomes 2 over 10 ohms is equal to 1 over RT. All right. However you want to think about it, me, I would just flip them both over. You can think about them as cross multiplying and dividing. You can think about them as just swapping back and forth. I don't know however you think about however you do. Ultimately, your math is fine. But ultimately, the next line here is going to say R total is equal to 10 ohms over 2, which means that R total is equal to just 5 ohms. So that means that the total resistance, which is one of the reasons why we call it the equivalent resistance, is less than the sum of the resistors, which is weird, but it's one of the implications of adding things in parallel or combining resistors in parallel.